Sean Lardo. I've had the great pleasure of knowing Sean for a while now. He's a relationship-based selling philosopher, a proponent of starting a relationship and making the selling his own. I know him through a mutual company that I do a lot of business with, that I've been partnered with, ConnectWise. He's been there for a while. He's got this great program called Pitch It, where he's got these vendors, these IT vendors, and he's introducing them to MSPs, to our MSP or managed service provider community. These vendors have to pitch their solution. They have a bunch of judges that evaluate and award. I believe the program's been going on for about 5 years. Sean has been charging for 2. It's been completely reimagined. But we have a great discussion on just small to medium businesses, how to create that relationship selling. How can vendors better work with small businesses and managed service providers to bridge that gap? So the small business ends up winning with that solution. It's a great discussion with Sean. He's endlessly fascinating, military background, a lot of great hobbies, very, very deep, very just a fun guy. He's got 4 daughters. We have a lot in common. And of course, I open up with, what does it take to have and maintain a great beard? Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Sean Lardo, it's a great pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate your time today, and let's do this, my friend.
Let's go. Oh, I'm in here later. Keep talking. I'm listening.
All right. Love your office.
Thank you, sir. It's my attic. I have nothing better to do with it. You can't see the rest of it. Like, this is one room. So I live in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So we have the old Victorian homes, right? And so years ago, I have 4 daughters, and the 3 are gone. I only have 1 left. I'm a single father. She lives with me full time. She's 14. And so I didn't need all the space anymore. So now my house is split into 2 apartments, and my mother lives on the first floor apartment.
Nice.
I moved in a couple years ago. And so I was like, well, I also need space for myself. So I started redoing the attic. And now my attic has 2 big rooms, like every big Victorian has. And it's a lot of space. And so I made one side my office. And like, you can't see the rest of this room from this position. But like, if I start to pan over, you'll get an idea that it keeps going and going and going, right?
Nice.
Now, I have a 55-inch TV over there because that way I can smoke cigars up here and watch football.
Nice.
That's a priority of life.
Especially this time of year.
I have my fridge, my humidor, my scotches, my bourbons, everything that a person should want.
I can't imagine it any better for you. What goes into a great beard?
A great beard?
Yes.
Oh, that's a great question. It's a great question. Lots of work. You have to lose it on your head first, and then a beard, and then the face grows it, right? Because it was running away from your face, and it was like, holy hell, we got to cover it back up. This is not a good look for you. But then it takes a lot of work though after that. Like, I can grow facial hair, but like, I literally go to the barbershop every 2 to 3 weeks to get cleaned up. I have oils, I have waxes, I have a brush, I have a comb, I have all of it. I even when it gets longer, like because if you remember at Connect, I did the
I
beard
remember.
shampoo
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
hair. I have a straightener, an actual straightener that's like literally like a curling iron straightener. So yeah, I'm a princess.
And what's the difference between an oil and a wax?
Mm. So an oil, a wax is more for sculpting,
Ah,
and it's literally wax. So like putty would be right.
I see.
Um, and you when you put it through to sculpt it if you're trying to keep it together. The oil is for it serves two purposes, and so does the wax to a degree too. The wax and oil both do the same thing where they help to also keep it moist to keep it from getting brittle. For those that have some people have brittle beards,
Hmm.
um, and so it helps with that. It also helps to keep it from it gives it a decent smell
Interesting.
because one of the dirtiest things on your body is your beard unless you wash it
Really?
because well it's a filter, it captures everything.
Uh,
So yeah, so it helps with the to make it smell pretty decent, and yeah, it's good.
and
And
you
I'm
had
back to being a princess. I'm a princess.
no, you explained this to me before, and I just
Uh-huh.
wanted to get some clarity. I just uh I didn't even think about it. It's a filter. So I mean, I take a shower, not to brag, Sean, every day, huh?
Well,
But
that's good. I'm proud of you. It's about time.
and I shampoo my hair. So are you shampooing your beard
And conditioner.
and
And,
conditioner?
and and back to being a princess again. Mine is even the color coordinated purple shampoo and
Ah,
conditioner for the silver in me because I've just decided and accepted and owned the fact that that's what I am. I might as well
gray
own the
or
beard.
silver, salt and pepper.
Yeah, it's not so much pepper these days. It's more just salt. I'm looking at my screen right now as I
Some
say that.
pepper.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit, but like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, there was a lot more pepper.
There
It
was,
was
yeah.
pepper and salt. Now it's salt and pepper.
Dot, dot, dot.
Yeah, like it is really small font.
Is it worth it, all the work?
Yes,
Yeah, it is. You love it.
I do. Well, okay, so like I did the beard shave last year for the
Yeah.
for with Matt Lee, and then we did the charity thing, and after IT Nation. So IT Nation Connect wrapped up on Friday night, right? Saturday morning, I flew down to Cancun to see to meet up with my girlfriend and her sister and brother in law for a trip. Like they were meeting me there. They flew from Pittsburgh. I flew right from Orlando. Right now, she saw my face. She saw the pictures. Now her sister and brother in law didn't see anything, and I mind you, I've been with her for 7 years.
Mm.
So, and her brother-in-law, and I are really close. Like we're he's one of my best friends. You know what I mean? And so I checked in. I get all my stuff up. I come down. She says, "Oh, we're here." And so I'm walking down towards it. So I walk right to the where the check-in is, and she's not there. They're there, and I'm standing little let's say 10 feet,
Mm.
15 feet from them. And they're looking at me like, who are you?
You did the same thing to me, by the way.
Right.
You
it
did the
was the,
same thing to me.
it was the most quiet walk through IT Nation Connect I've ever had, dude.
Yeah, you
Nobody
did the same
talked
thing
to
to
me.
me. Like,
Uh-huh.
you looked at me and like, you're like, Joe, it's Sean. I said, holy shit, it is Sean.
Dude, I put my backpack on, I had my hat on, no facial hair, and I just walked through the whole showroom floor and nobody said hi to me. It was like so peaceful. I was like, I should do this more often, maybe. It was so nice. Nobody talked to me. I looked at people that are like, I was like, I think one person knew who I was. One.
Do you think you look younger without it?
I look younger, but I look like a turtle, so I can't do it.
Ah,
I'm like,
I
I
don't
feel like I'm
remember
supposed to
that.
like sing this song, like I'm looking for my baby.
Ah.
That's how I look, man. I'm telling you, it's not a good
Mm.
look. It's not a good look.
How long have you had a
So
beard?
since I got out of the army, well, yeah, since 2003.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had it before that too, off and on, and like I'd always grow. Well, I had like the mustache and goatee because I thought I was like color me bad, you know.
Sure.
That was that
Color
era,
me
right?
bad.
Right. Then I just
Wow.
pull that out, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
It
yeah.
suits
So
you.
Thank you. I mean, it makes me look like I always have a jawline, so it hides my other chins.
Uh, uh,
So there's a method to the madness here, Joe.
sure. And it's well worth it. You're not a princess, by the way. You're
I'm
just
okay with
know
being a
what you
princess.
is that right?
I love being a princess,
I
man.
guess that's not really a derogatory term, is it? No.
It's no, it's what I
Yeah.
want to be. It's what I always wanted to be. I feel like. I mean, I spent case in point when I went to the army. Well, I grew up inner city, poor. Always wanted to do more. Right. Always wanted to achieve more. And I was a bad kid too, though. So it's kind of an oxymoron. Achieve more,
Mm.
but do bad things. It doesn't work. They don't correlate, right? So I joined the army at 18, and I was in for active duty 4 years, and I was like, all right. Then I was going through a divorce, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to National Guard so that I don't have to deploy anymore because I want to be home with my kids and whatnot. And you couldn't ask for a more coincidental timing because then 9/11 happened
Mm.
and they reactivated me, and then I was gone again for I spent another 5 years in, so I was in a total of 9 years because they put me on stop loss too. So
Hmm.
now, so I when I came out for good, my best friend growing up, he loves hiking and camping and stuff, and that's all cool and whatever. And he's like, "Do you want to go do the Appalachian Trail?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "But you love that stuff." I was like, "No, I don't. No,
Hmm.
I deployed. I've been outside long enough." I was like, "How about you do it? I'll drop you off and I'll pick you up at each spot. Like I'll meet you at the
Nice.
local watering hole every X amount of miles. I'll hike with you for a little bit, and I'll go back to the car, and I'll drive to the next place where I sleep in a bed in a hotel with air conditioning, cable television, food made by
Internet
somebody
access.
else."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've been so glamping is my favorite passion.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes,
All more
princess.
proof that you're not a prince. Come on, that's still tough. So 9 years in the military. I mean, what did you
Yes.
you said you weren't a good kid, you're inner city. What did that teach you?
It taught me that I was a moron.
He said this. You weren't a
Um,
man. Yeah.
it really did. It taught me that um, even to this day, I think as you're an adult, I mean, as a person, as a human, you can only see so far around you. Your peripheral is
Mm,
only so far what goes on in your life, right?
mm,
You can only see. You can only contemplate 2 steps ahead or 3 steps ahead, and you can't really understand, and you really can't account for everybody else either that you think you
mm,
can. Like, especially as a man, we're really bad at this. Especially if children, especially if daughters, we want to solve all the problems and we think we know the answer, and really we don't know anything. I learned that
mm,
having 4 daughters. I really learned that too. But what it did teach me is that to get my head on my ass,
mm,
to be a self starter always. Don't blame other people for the things I can't accomplish. If I don't like the situation, adapt and adjust and change it.
mm,
Always do it for the betterment. Always better other people around you. We work as a team. I'm an expert at this, but I'm not an expert at anything else, and
mm,
you're the expert at anything else, and so is my 5 other people with me there, right? So leverage them, pump them up, make them feel as good as you. A victory is a team thing. It's not an individual thing. Even though we all want to say we did this, we did that, yeah, we did our part, but there was other parts that contributed, and so that's it taught me about the teamwork aspect of it, and I'd rather everybody succeed with me because we're all happier then. I don't know that I'd ever want to be the richest person in a third world country.
right.
It's a lot of sadness. I'd rather
Yeah.
bring the third world country up to at least a second world country, if not a first world
Mm,
country, if I could, right? I want everybody around me to be to and I've done this many times in the past. I've taken far less than I should have probably gotten, that I should have made or received, to give to others,
mm.
to bring them up to my level, because to me I see it as a reinvestment into my own happiness ultimately.
Can the military really benefit a lot of 18-year-olds?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do such a fantastic job of people say they tear you down, okay, and then they build you back up. And for all essential purposes, that's exactly what they do. But they don't tear you down. If anything, they make you acknowledge your weaknesses
Hmm.
and address them head on. But then they teach you how to address it and how to do better and improve. And then how to, an improvement isn't just it is an individual siloed off thing. Improvement is Yeah, I want to be able to do more push-ups. I'm able to run faster. Great. Okay. But then it's the mental and the psyche piece behind it of teaching you how to make it to be more effective amongst people too, amongst projects, amongst everything. I do talks like this. I do tons of talks to veterans, and I'm there's two people that do talks to veterans. There's the ones that say go get as much help as you can, leverage the VA and all that, which I agree with. But then they also become sort of bleed hearts, where they like literally keep going and going and going. And like, your life is so difficult. Everybody's life is difficult. Shut your
Mm,
face, put your
mm.
face on and let's get to work. So I'm the other side. Put your face on. Let's go. We have something to be proud of. You should always have pride, have humility and have pride. So yeah, it can teach you a lot of stuff. Plus it taught me how to blow shit up. So that was really cool
Yeah,
too.
well, that's a side benefit.
It's
Did
like,
did the military teach you ultimately about sales and relationship building?
um, everybody's selling something all the time.
Mm,
How do you get somebody to go into a mission where they don't know exactly what's going on unless you sell them on the goal, on the objective, or the mission itself? Um, sales sales isn't about trying to sell anything at the end of the day, though. It's more about earning trust, right? If I knew you for 10 years, I never did anything wrong by you, and I was a stand-up person, and you could trust me with your life essentially. If I then said to you, Joe, I think you should do this, you're probably 9 times out of 10 going to say yes.
yeah.
So it's a relationship, and it's an earned relationship. It's not a bought one. Can't buy those, So it taught me that. It taught me that in a way of working individually with people, with my fellow soldiers. It taught me to open up my own self, because the other thing I learned is when you don't trap. Before we had the intranet and the social media of the world today, if you remember when we were young, we had our community, our neighborhoods. That's what we know.
Right.
So you grew up in that culture. So the exposure I received when I got there of all the different walks of life was a very humbling experience. It was
Mm.
great. Um, at one point, my roommates, which was great, I had one roommate from Peru, and he was a staunch Catholic. Right, he was a staunch Catholic. I mean, the Mother Mary was everything. Right, I mean, that's just all there is to it. And then our other roommate was from Morocco, and he was a Muslim.
Hmm.
I never knew what Ramadan was until then.
Wow.
I got fat during Ramadan.
Did you?
Oh my lord! 'Cause I ate all. So they don't have to do anything during the day, but in the military, because
Right.
they fast, so they can't do all the physical stuff. And they don't. I still was working. I was eating. I was doing. And then I got home, and they're preparing feasts all night, and they're eating all night. So I'm eating all night with them. I'm like,
Wow.
oh my lord! And they make good food, really good. Oh my! That's when I was introduced to couscous. Never knew what the hell it was. I never heard of it. And yeah, I got fat every Ramadan. I got fat.
Did they?
It all day. I mean, Ramadan goes more than one day.
That's a month.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It was like every year. I was like, here it comes. I had to like work out extra hard the month prior to trim down to prepare for the fatness.
But did they get fat? The Muslims?
No,
No. No.
no, they look great. They're healthy. I'm fat. Like they looked fantastic. I was like, because I would eat all day, eat all night, and nap. I would have to nap too. And they're like, they're fine. I'm like, this is no. I was like, we need some lean cuisines or something. Like,
Everybody or people love to buy, but they hate to be sold to.
correct. But they do, but they don't love to be sold. They don't hate to be sold to either. They
Mm.
like to be coerced and convinced because they don't want the buyer's remorse. In order to coerce and convince, that's work. Okay, like I we just finished up the pitch up program, right? The preliminaries anyway. We're announcing the finalists in a week, and the I learned this from all the companies I went to that I had to be. I had to train them. I had to be the growth engine, so I had to break it and rebuild it, right? It's like the army,
Mm.
right? Same rules apply. Um, I never even thought about that till just now. Actually,
Mm.
I'm like a masochist and a sadist at the same time, you know. But the one thing I always learned is I had to understand what you do exactly.
Hmm.
But by understanding what you do is not all the nuts and bolts. It's what problem are you solving? Like, what's the real problem you're solving for?
Hmm.
And then why and how? Like, why did you decide to do it? Because there's such a good story behind why. And typically that's when you get your position of authority from somebody. Like, well, I was this and we couldn't do this. And I was frustrated and I was tired of it. and it affected me in these ways. So this is how I fixed it. So, when you go through the process of that, and again, these are vendors that have been in business for a long time, some cases, right? They were MSPs, they became vendors and whatnot. And I had to teach them how to boil it down to simplicity. First, I have to tell you what the problems I'm solving. And then I have to tell you why, so you have any reason to trust me or listen to me. Then I can show you how.
Hmm.
Until then, you've gotten nowhere, right? So, and that's how you start to convince somebody, but it requires you to listen first. We know that. Proper discovery is essential for anything. Just like, are you married?
I'm not, but I have 2 daughters like yourself. I'm
Okay,
divorced.
good. So think about this. When your daughters date and when you dated, when you met their mother, even, what's the first thing you had to do? You had to shut up and ask questions.
Hmm.
You had to learn about who you're talking to. You had to learn your audience, right? And your audience in that particular case was their mother. And you're like, so you ask all the right questions because you're genuinely interested. And anytime you have genuine interest, you can spark a relationship. A relationship can turn into a full fledged conversation that leads to you sold her on liking you, apparently. So there you are.
Sean, I find as I get older, I have more questions than I have answers.
Oh God, yes, yes. It's you. Wait, this is a perfect segue to this because I just had this conversation the other day with some of my colleagues. I said, "Do you remember when we were young and we were looking at the people that were in charge, and we're like, man, they got it together. They know everything. Do I know I know
Yeah,
nothing. I know
zip,
like
zip.
I knew all this at the age of 18. I knew all this. At the age of 47, I know this,
Yeah,
and that makes me think either I'm really behind the eight ball or it's a facade. It's,
maybe both. Yeah, yeah. I just find that to be the case. I'm constantly asking questions, and perhaps that's why we're here today. You mentioned MSPs, managed service providers, of course, the computer companies that support small to medium sized businesses, and you're working with them as I was formerly a managed service provider. And
yep.
you're working with vendors in this pitch it program to work better with the MSPs. Where's the big disconnect? You kind of alluded to it when these tech vendors that have solutions for these managed service providers for them to implement on their clients. Where's the disconnect as far as the vendor, the IT vendor supplier? Where's the disconnect there? You feel, Sean?
So that's a really good question. It comes on a few different fronts. First off, if you're talking about a lot of okay, started small businesses, for instance, right? You're a startup, right? More than likely, you were an engineer or a product person of
Mm,
some sort, and that's what you started your business around, right? You weren't a sales and marketing person.
right.
Okay, so you built something to solve a problem that was somewhat scalable to a certain niche, whatever, right? It's about being able to scale outside of that, then, right? To make it more applicable to the mass, right? To that mass market appeal as well, right? That's one part. The second part is this: because they're engineers and product people, and or even like a doctor, for instance, that might have created a new device that helps with surgeries. I believe like there's the Da Vinci device that helps with surgeries, right? If you never saw it, it's freaking impressive, right?
Mm,
And so the person that founded and created Da Vinci were doctors, surgeons. Because they couldn't do certain things. They had the knowledge, but their hands couldn't get in, and they couldn't, or they were getting older, and their hands weren't stable anymore, and can't teach those things, right? You either have a steady hand or you don't, right? Now so with that, the way they spoke about it, they get into the nuts and bolts of everything. When you're talking to your people, if you're creating a marketing campaign or you're just going to be on stage talking about what you do, if you get nuts and bolts of conversations and they're all end users that don't know, that can't speak your tongue, then they don't know what you're saying. So
mm,
English to English translation is extremely important in this case. So the first thing is they have to, and not that these engineers and these not that these entrepreneurs aren't smart, because they're very smart,
right.
but um, they're also naive and they're short-sighted, not realizing that sales and marketing itself is its own engine, its own entity, its own everything. And if you can't teach, I tell all the people that I ever work with, go tell your mother what you do for a living and see if she
Mm,
understands. Because if you want the most honest feedback, that's who you're getting it from, right? For one. Two, when you tell her this, she's the same as the end users that's talking to you. And this is a struggle when it comes to vendors to MSPs, from MSPs to end users. So really, a lot of vendors lose, especially if they're reselling. If their product is a sell through, they lose a lot because they don't teach the MSPs how to talk to their end users about it either. So they don't have growth.
We have classic cases of this where these huge companies were successful because they were and Apple, right? We had
Mhm.
Wozniak, one of the brilliant, one of the most
Yep.
brilliant. And then without the addition of Mr. Jobs, of course, marketing and sales, they wouldn't have got anywhere. And so a lot of times we see
No.
this big disconnect. So we have a lot of these managed service providers that are mostly tech led. I was a technician. I started my MSP the same way,
Sure.
and I had to be broken into sales. I had to be beaten over the head
You got to be
because
humbled.
had to be humbled because they think that it's dirty. They
Yes.
think that sales is dirty. They think you're
Right.
trying to push something that people don't want. And what we talked about before, buyer's remorse. How can we get over MSPs that hump?
So they need to put themselves in the same realm as doctors, attorneys, mechanics,
Mm,
electricians. They have to think of it like that. Do you see your carpenter or your electrician being a salesperson? No, but they're telling you what you need to buy and
mm,
what you need to pay them to do the job, right? Do you see a doctor is doing it? No, they're telling you what you need to do to fix yourself. They're never selling. The difference is, and this is, I do, it's funny because I do a talk on this called Return on Relationships. Instead of talking about ROI, let's talk about ROR instead, right? And
mm,
the whole premise, the whole premise of it is that if you look at all industry reports, you're supposed to spend 10% of your budget on marketing. Now, how many MSPs are doing that?
right.
Zero, probably, right? Every time I do it, I ask, and I get like one person that says they have marketing, but I'm like, do you spend 10% of your budget on it? And they drop their hand right away.
Mm,
I could be in a room of 200, 300 people. At one point, I think I had over 1,000 in one room, and I was like, who here has that? It was like 5% of the room, right? Now, but they have relationships. As historically known, is that MSPs, 90% of their business, if not 100%, is referral based, right? This goes back to the same
mm,
thing as your dad said what mechanic you should use, right? Now, that's great and all, but at least mechanics have billboards. At least
mm,
mechanics have a physical location and people understand cars. It's been around a lot longer than MSPs. It's been around a lot longer than technology has been the way we see it today.
mm,
So, you're talking about an industry that's been around since the Model T, where we're talking about a space with technology solution providers that are what, 25 years in, 30 years in, maybe 50 if we really stretch it, right? If we're really reaching. But as a service offering, you're not we're a very infancy state. We're an very infancy industry in general, you know. So the thing is, if you talk about relationships and you leverage your relationships, and I teach about horizontal and vertical relationships and how to leverage them. So that what horizontal and vertical are is that horizontal is exactly people side on either side of you, your friends, right? Friends and family, right? If you're co-manage IT, that's a horizontal relationship. Your clients,
mm.
they become horizontal because they become your friends typically. So leverage these people and find out where they hang out. Every business owner, where do you go hang out? I want to hang out. Can you invite me? You know? So that's horizontal. Vertical. If you think of it chronologically, vertical. Vendors, we use ConnectWise, right? Here's ConnectWise sitting here. Here's the MSP sitting here. Here's their end user right here. How do you leverage that relationship? Why is it a relationship? Well, think about this for one. How many times have you, as an MSP, did you stay with a vendor because your account manager was great? Or you stayed with the
Mm.
vendor. Like you weren't very something happened you were mad about, but you're willing to give them a second and third chance because of your relationship with the account manager. MSP, same rules apply,
Yeah.
right? That helps you keep your business. But if you want more business, again, you do well. Hey, where can I go hang out with you guys? Where can I do? You don't have to really go and sell your stuff. If you go sit at a bar by yourself at a place, random place, so you don't know anybody, and you just had drinks and you're watching a football game, and you start talking to people that are you have your if I'm a Steeler fan, so I have a Steeler hat. If somebody comes with a Steeler hat, I'm maybe in a different town. We start talking like,
Yeah.
oh, you're still yeah, and natural evolution always leads to where are you from? What do you do for a living? It always does. You don't have to sell anything. All you got to do is sell yourself, if that's what you want to call it, by having or selling the conversation. It's not even selling, it's literally just you having fun. They make it something that it's not. It doesn't have to. I haven't physically gone and did elevator pitches for a living in 15 years.
Mm.
I can do them. I've done them, but I haven't done it as a source of generating business like that. It comes out eventually, but it's not the first thing I say to them.
Hmm.
It comes back to when I get a LinkedIn invite and I accept it, and the first thing I get is a pitch. I
Hmm.
hate it. Don't tell me you want to connect to me on my network to be cool, and then pitch to me and say, let's schedule time and talk about how my product can help you. Your product can't help me, dude. If it can, I'm not looking now, so it doesn't matter.
Hmm. So we have these MSPs that are tech led, and they've been burned by vendors before, right? There's been vendors that have tried to go around them and go to their clients. And so they're just generally apprehensive. They're not sales savvy. And then we have vendors, some of which, they have the MSP's best interest in mind, and they start instructing them on how to sell. And maybe the MSP's resistant or not resistant because there's influence there. There's bias there because they're teaching them how to sell their product when in fact their product may be one in the stack of many. So
Mhm.
there is that divide there, Sean. And how do we help both parties really help the end user, which is the most important party here in this
Great,
pie?
great question. For one, I mean, like ConnectWise, for instance, and I don't want to pitch ConnectWise because I'm not here to pitch ConnectWise, but they came to the realization they have to have a co-sell program for cybersecurity because it was so cybersecurity is Wild West still. We know that. People explain it as like it's like speaking some
Yeah.
sort of ancient dialect. I don't know what that. I don't speak Mandarin either, so you can't do it in Mandarin. So forget it. So the co-sell program is important, right? Things like that. So for vendors, that's something they should look at doing. If they can't afford to do a co-sell, I get it, but at least make this your messaging to your partners needs to be as simple as it needs to be to the end users. First off, stop
Explain what
mark.
co-sell is. I'm sorry, Sean.
Oh, sure. No, good question. So co-sell. So MSPs or anybody for that matter doesn't understand how to say something, doesn't know how to sell the product. They can register an opportunity and say, I'm working with these prospects. Can you come help me do this? And we'll literally go in and present for them and ask the questions and make sure we're doing our due diligence. Okay. So that is what co-sell is all about. We have a do it yourself, do it with you, or do it for you model. All vendors should try to have those because you have some people that they're good on their own. Give them documentation, give them the content, and by content, I mean give them real content that they can
Mm,
use.
mm,
Don't have separate content. I don't know why vendors want to do this. They think they have to have a certain set of content for the partners and then a different set for the end users. And they'll even have a direct, and some of the big vendors like Microsoft, for instance, they have direct sales going on too.
right.
So why not give the same content you give to your direct salespeople and marketing people that you give that same thing to the MSPs directly to them? Why not? Why is it different? It's not different. So as vendors, let's make it easy to work with us, for
Mm,
one. Let's make onboarding simple. If you hire an employee today, you have an onboarding process, right? And you try to make it as seamless as possible, right? You try to give them baby bites, almost digestible, small baby bites to do things, to get things done, right? And because you're trying to, you need to educate, enable them so that you empower them. Period. If you don't do the three E's, you're kind of in a bad way. Same
mm.
rules apply for MSPs. Teach them how to have a conversation, how to do discovery. How
You
many
know,
MSPs have you seen that do that? Don't do a discovery. Don't have a presentation set up of any sort and
mm,
preparation for it. They go in leading with their heart. What are you talking about leading with your heart? The only lead with your heart is if you ask me what the hell's wrong. I can and if I say this is what's wrong, Joe, and this is why it's wrong, and this is how it's affecting me, and this is what I can't do because of it. Now you're listening. Now you can lean to
mm.
I'm like, I went through it too, man. I get it. Let me tell you what I did. Now I'm listening because you listened first. Let's try that.
Certainly a great approach. I talk to MSPs, I talk to vendors every day. And a lot of times with the vendors on that side, I have to say things like, stop feeding features to them. Tell them what the value is. Stop
Constantly.
stop telling them what the report looks like. Just tell them what the actual value is to them. And
But I,
on
but
the
I think that's the wrong word though, value.
what should it be?
Because value is subjective.
Ah.
Did I lose you there?
No, just for a second it blinked. You said not value, but something else?
I don't see you.
I see and hear you just fine. Hello, hello, hello. You know what? Maybe I'll stop it. Is value the wrong word?
I think it is because value is perceived.
Ah.
Okay. When you set up your business, or let's talk about people that build technologies, build softwares, it's their baby, right? And they want to talk about every nook and cranny of their baby, just like your daughters, right? When I said, hey, tell me about your daughters, you're going to give me this lengthy thing about your daughters because they're your pride and joy, they're your babies, right? and and all I wanted to know is, can they pass this test, or
Mm,
can I'm looking to hire, can they know how to use a register? That's all I
mm,
need to know. But you're like, in third grade they da da da, like, that's great. I'm glad you love your kid and I'm glad you were involved. But at the end of it, that wasn't the question, right? It was, what can she do to benefit me in my business? So I don't know if it's value anymore. I think, again, that's why I stress, what problem are you solving? It forces you to get to the point of a problem you're solving. It forces you to say,
mm,
let's use what you're doing here. What are you trying to solve for? To me, I look at it and I say, the problem you're trying to solve for is, you're trying to create content that's usable and digestible for the space to help people.
mm,
You're not going to say, so I bought this product and I got this mic and I started doing this and I read this book.
mm.
No, I don't care about that. I want to know what problem you're solving. And why is it a problem? Because they need help. People need help in development. People need to do more, and they don't know where to go for the content, and they can't afford to buy audiobooks all the time, or whatever your reasons are. But that's the problem you're solving for. It forces you.
It certainly does. So when I talk to MSPs, the three things that keep coming up, that keep them up at night: security. They're afraid that, clients are going to click on a button to get, infected.
Uh,
Staff, they're worried about their big engineers leaving and not being able to replace them or even
mhm.
hiring more. And third, growth. How are they going to grow? Those are the three things that keep on coming up when I talk to MSPs. You find it to be the same?
Yes, I mean, and probably in that order too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The first two are interchangeable as one and two.
Mm.
It's funny, they're all afraid of, they want more growth, but they're not afraid of it. Like, they're not afraid they're not getting it yet because they're so about the other ones, right? And to me, I think you flip flop that. I think if you make growth a priority, you have enough money to solve all the other two problems. First
Mm.
off,
Mm.
because with enough revenue coming in, you can hire the talent that you need to solve for the problems, or buy the products needed to solve for the security problem. You also create a good culture around winning, and you can do more things for your employees and pay them what they're worth, or create, or improve the environment, upgrade your office, stop working out of your mother's basement, whatever it is
Mm.
you're doing, right? And then you can maintain your employees too, and you can pay. And most employees, we know, they don't. More employees are more than likely to leave because they're unhappy with the position or the culture than they are about the pay first. Now, unless it's some obscene difference, if you're making
Sure.
six figures
Mm.
and I'm making 15 grand, we have a problem, right? But other than that, though, as long as they have a good culture, you've seen people stay for years because of culture, because of loyalty to the people around them and who they work for. Now, how do you fix that? You make it simple. If you make enough money, you can pay for development. You can pay for them to go to school. You can pay for the things that they want. It also gives you maneuverability. So for these small businesses, and this is a real reality of it, your COO may be a female that's having a baby, and she's going to take maternity leave. God forbid there's complications. It's going to take longer. God forbid, ain't it? Right? How do you keep it? How do you keep going? Then you go into this chaos mode, and you go from being a great leader to a horrible one
Mm.
because you're stressed because you didn't have anything ready for this. With enough money, and I don't want to make it all about money, but
Mm.
money helps you pay for the support and the services you may need to get through those times. And to, if you're doing it right. Now, if you're just making more money to make more money for a lifestyle business, and you bought your nice house up in, Vail, great for you. But know that you're not a value builder of any sort. You're not investing into your space. You're not investing into your company. You're not investing into your people. This goes back to what I said earlier. I've taken less for others to make my environment better
Mm.
because I'm stuck with you for 40 hours a week, at
Right.
least. So if I'm going to be stuck with you, I don't want to be stuck with you in a shithole. Period. So
But
yeah.
knowing what keeps MSPs up at night, doesn't that help vendors?
Absolutely. It
It
should.
should.
It
Yeah.
should if they're listening to them and they're doing it the right way. I mean, you can create the greatest product in the world. There's a line I've always said, you could have the cure for cancer, but if nobody knows you have the cure for cancer, then you don't have the cure for cancer,
Hmm.
right? And the fact of the matter is, vendors should be taking advantage of that. And I know that sounds like a horrible line, taken advantage of, but the reality is they should be, because vendors typically have more money to invest into. Their whole job is to help MSPs
That's
grow.
right. That's right.
So why would you not leverage that? In every way, shape, and
Capitalize.
form. Absolutely. You should be. And you should do it for the greater good of both. Like I love the introduction of MDF that came out years ago. I hate the lack of usage of MDF because nobody knows what the shit they're doing.
Marketing development funds, vendors set
Yes.
it up for MSPs to spend to develop their
But nobody
market.
tells them how to do it.
Right.
Nobody tells them what to do. You should be working with them. If you're a big company with lots of marketing people, why not give the marketing person over to the MSP and say, here's how you should do it? Let me show you. Teach a man how to fish. It's not the end of the world.
I mean, if we go back to relationship building and sales, the
Mhm.
MSP can benefit and so can the vendor. I think it both can benefit there.
Of course they do. Again, if I make you successful, if you worked for me as a sales rep, what's my job? If I'm the sales leader and you're the salesperson, what is my first primary job? Is it to close deals or to make you and give you the ability to close deals?
Certainly the latter.
So I focus on your success, only your success. Eliminate all the noise. And that's the other problem. Nobody knows how to eliminate noise. All the chaos, especially now, technology for all its greatness and pluses has a shit ton of side effects. It's like a drug commercial. Take this pill to cure this, but here's a list of side effects that could occur from
Mm,
taking it, right? Um, and the fact is like, think about it. Easy case in point example is how many how many different methods of communication do you use?
hmm.
How many do you use today? You have your cell phone, so you have phone calls still, like we've always had. You have text on there, right? You have any apps on there for communication like Slack,
WhatsApp,
Teams,
Teams.
Discord,
Mhm.
WhatsApp? How about social media? There again, how many different medias are you on, right? Now imagine you're everywhere doing stuff. Imagine all the communication that comes forward. Imagine all the noise. Now you go to a vendor and gives you this complex situation to work with. Like, hey, if it's leap year, you're going to hop 2 times. And then you're going to spin around once and you're going to say abracadabra. If you don't say abracadabra, you don't get it. It's over.
Hmm.
It's no. How about here, simplistically, is how we work together. These are your people.
Hmm.
Treat your MSPs as your coworkers.
And you kind of alluded to it earlier, Sean. When one of the biggest things that attracted me to ConnectWise is a company that you work for, that we partnered with since 2007. We first came on board with ConnectWise, my MSP, and was the community. Back then,
Mhm.
Janine Edwards was heading it up, and it was just
Oh,
great, thriving community. And the events were often, and there was great, conversations going across, and you just really sensed the community. I think many vendors can benefit from that. And also the MSPs can create those kind of communities with their clients as well.
yep, I agree. Uh, yes. So I'll use myself case in point again. When I don't have a technology background, right? I don't. I've learned technology as a result of the business case to use case application of things. And if I couldn't see that it could solve a problem that made sense to me, I couldn't represent it.
Mm,
Period. Like, great theoretically, you're making a unicorn, which I love unicorns. They're great. They're majestic. But if it's just a unicorn, it's just a unicorn. It's Bigfoot. I'm never gonna see it. It doesn't make sense. So if it's not, so if the product or service doesn't solve a problem, I don't really want to spend time with it.
mm.
Also, if you're the type of entrepreneur that I can see getting in and getting out, not really listening, if you're not taking my feedback, I can't be, because if you're not taking my feedback, you're not taking anyone else's either. So that's not good. And if you look around at the colleagues, if they look like they're miserable and they hate everybody, don't want to be there either. I'm not Spartacus. I'm not coming to free them. I mean, I will if I have to, but Um, so but it needs to be a symbiotic relationship. But what I've done is I learned how to navigate through other channels. Okay, yeah, you gave me a product, you generate some leads for me, great. But why not go hang out with the people that I'm trying to work with? Because literally my clients are who I work with. I don't
Mm,
work with ConnectWise. I work for ConnectWise. I work with my colleagues at ConnectWise,
mm,
but I work with my colleagues that are the external partners as well, vendors and MSPs. Like if you see me, if you're at Connect this year, look who I'm hanging out with. I don't need to hang out with my colleagues anymore. I see them every other day. I talk to them all the
mm,
time. I'm there to talk to people I don't get a chance to see often. I'm with my friends. Not saying my colleagues aren't my friends because they are,
mm,
but my friends that I spend the most time with are the partners, vendors, and
mm,
MSPs. And I know about them. I can tell you about their families. I can tell you about their favorite teams. I can show you text messages right now where we're talking shit about football from the weekend because the
mm.
Steelers got beat up
Yeah, I
bad, and
did. Yeah.
I know. And then on Thursday, there was Casey losing to Detroit. And my buddy Bill, I texted him, I was like, oh God. Like there was a meme that said, you know, Mahomes is like 0-1 against
Detroit.
losing record for the year. Like all these funny things, right? I was like, yep, that's how it looks. But that's how you should be, because we're all people first. Before you were a mechanic, before you were an MSP, before you were the CEO of a billion-dollar company, you are a person first
Mm,
with real human needs. And I think that's the other part. I think that's one of the big missing pieces is if I'm talking to you about my service or product, the discovery of everything is, why are we talking? What has you interested?
mm.
And you're going to give me some stuff, right? You're going to say some things. Active listening is key there. Okay, so you had this problem. Okay, what has it done to you? Well, and this is MSP. This is a real life thing, and you know this. What happens if you don't fix this? Well, it's going to cost me a lot of money, and I can't pay for my daughter's wedding or
Mm,
college, right? There's no budget to fall back on some cases, right? So that's a pretty big deal. That's a human. If you're in a big company, I might lose my job. That's a big problem. So
mm.
how can we work on helping you with this? What can we do to help you fix that? That's the real question then. That's what you're really solving for. You're not solving for the trinket you're going to give them or the widget that's in your system. That's not what you're solving for. You're solving for what the real problem is.
You mentioned the pitch it program that you're doing there, where you're getting a bunch of vendors together, and
Yep.
you got some judges, and they're evaluating their offerings to the MSPs, and you got some
Yeah.
finalists. This is your, I believe, second or third year.
This is my second year running it. It's ConnectWise's fifth year
Wow,
sponsoring and doing this.
it's a great
Um,
program, great idea.
it is, and we revamped. Well, no, what's the word where everybody use? We reimagined it last
Ah,
year.
I like
That's the word,
Disney.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, we reimagined. Um, and uh, and so before it was basically just like you saw. It is a Shark Tank like competition, right?
Mm,
Ultimately, that's exactly what it is. But before, it was more or less like they showed up and they pitched and they either won or they lost, right? And that's great. But you know, when it comes back to what you said before about vendors that have hurt MSPs in the past, it's not that I don't know that people. I guess from maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm ignorant. I don't believe people have intentions on hurting people. I think
mm.
everybody comes into the room with good intentions, right? So I don't think these vendors or these entrepreneurs were trying to. Maybe they went out of business. Maybe they just didn't know. Maybe they did something dumb, right? I'm not saying don't they shouldn't be held accountable. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying like this happens. It happens regularly. I've seen it happen. I mean, it's a known fact that what's it, 60% of small to medium sized businesses close their doors in the first 2 years. And of the remaining 40, 30, 40%, that another 50, 60, almost 80% close their doors within 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, why is that? Is that because somebody started a business thinking they were going to fail? No, you want to start it. Oh, I have nothing better to do for the next 5 years. I'm going to start a business, lose all my hair, lose my marriage probably, lose my house, and just be stressed perpetually, and then be a failure at the end of 5 years and feel that way. None of them did that, right? So, but I do think the challenge is, and what we're pitch it what we changed last year was we turned it into an accelerated incubator program. Because I know me, I was in startup vendors for, I mean, I've been part of 5 startups now. 3 have been a successful exit for acquisitions.
Mm,
Okay. And from my early days, before I even understood it, I was learning about that and not realizing. When I learned, I was like, "What is EBITDA? Like, what is EBITDA? That's my God. What? Why have so many acronyms, right?" I'm like, but then I learned about what EBITDA is, right?
Mm.
But then I understand what the importance of EBITDA to be acquired is even
Yeah.
more so, right? Um, but as I went through the process of doing these things, I became the forefront person for the growth engine. That's companies hire me on as the entrepreneur. And my first job is to fire you as the CEO from sales and marketing
Mm.
because you shouldn't be there. Just like I shouldn't be in the product, you shouldn't be in my world. You know, so that happens back to what we said before about the entrepreneurs and where disconnect can take place. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to get them into a program where we could help to, you know, I don't know what they don't know. So if we give them a well-rounded education, so which we did every single week for 16 weeks, we had a thought leader come in. That wasn't that not just a thought leader in hyperbole, high tower, ivory tower stuff. I'm talking about somebody that was an actual practitioner in whatever they're gonna in their discipline. Okay. From everything from sales and marketing to mergers and acquisition to road mapping to strategies to knowing what your audience consists of.
Hmm.
Every single week there was a workshop. So we had 26 teams in this year, 26 different vendors, all startups. 70% of them were or are currently MSPs. Okay. And so it really comes down to helping them try to, we don't know what gaps they have, but they figure it out as they're going through.
Mm.
Like we got raving reviews for different things from different speakers. Some speakers are like, yeah, I didn't need that.
Mm.
Fine. I don't care. You might have I picked up a little bit, but not much. Some speakers are like, oh my goodness, ecosystem of ecosystems. I never thought about it. Right. Like they never thought about those things. So it works. And also during the course that the other challenge is not enough people know who they are.
Hmm.
So they don't scale. They're not growing. So we started doing live streams and podcasts, and like I got them engaged. We scheduled them and structured them in a way that they were become a part of other communities because you need to go to the fishing hole.
That's the way it is. You need those
You
watering holes.
right. You can't fish on pavement. Just can't. Not gonna find any fish. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I grew up in New York City. Trust me. The only fish I saw were the ones at at Long John Silver's and and at McDonald's, and that was the fish I saw, right? And so it's not the same thing. You have to be at the right places.
Mm.
So we helped them, and I would go on with them, and we'd work on a couple things. One was increasing their brand awareness. Second was working on their speak, how to talk about how to humanize them, just like you're doing with me right now.
Mm.
Now they get to know who they are. They
Yeah.
get to know what their background is. Again, the why. The why is so important, and people just totally downplay it. Let's put it in perspective. Imagine if you're going to rent an apartment and you have as much money as you want to rent. You plenty of money. Money's not the problem. And you meet two potential property owners. Okay. The one meets you at a coffee shop, nice car, well dressed, well presented, talks to you about like, okay, here's the lease, here's the rules, blah, blah, blah. Look at the view. It's beautiful, right? Now let's say we take one with the same exact view, same exact rules, but instead they say, well, Joe, I decided to do this a long time ago when I realized that people couldn't afford specific types of housing. And I also wanted to make it a smart place too, where we're also giving back to the community, but we're also not using too many resources. We're actually recycling things. We're actually using these things. Same view, same everything. You might pay a little bit more.
Mm.
Which one will you rent from? You'll rent from the one that has a mission.
Yeah.
The why. You will. You'll feel obligated. It's a give back. Kind of like when you go to the drive-thru, you say, "Do you want to pay? Do you want to round up to give to charity?" And I'm like, every time, I'm like, "Yes,
Mm.
yeah, I'll round up." I'm like, I'm not even in an area I even live in, so it's not even going
Mm.
to a school. It's not even going to my school district. It's going to some other. So same rules apply.
Yeah. Well said.
I thank you. I'm good at some things.
Good at a lot of things, Sean. You're one of them is your humility and your humbleness. So I started my MSP in the '90s, and I was working, 14-hour days. You feel sorry for a lot of you're starting your own business, like you said, the statistics are scary, and I was working way too much, and I wasn't paying attention to myself. I was eating terribly, kind of like your Ramadan days, right? So, I mean, I got myself up to about 340 pounds, and
Woo.
I had a checkup, and the doctor, and my daughter, my oldest, was just born, and the doctor said to me, she said, if you don't lose this weight, you're never going to see her graduate. So I took the next 7 months, didn't tell anybody. I took the next 7 months to lose about 130 pounds. I was a size 46-inch waist, went back down to 32. And
Wow.
whenever I tell anybody this story, they always, I see the look in their eyes, Sean, and it's like they want the quick answer. What'd you do? What's your secret? Tell me. And I say the one word answer is discipline. That's it, man. How did I lose the weight? It's discipline. There's no secret. I didn't climb a tree every day. I didn't. I just there's just discipline. I got focused and I got discipline. I wonder, given your background with the military and the inner city and through these relationship building that you've done, how does discipline play a role in your life, Sean Lardo?
It's the biggest part of my life, but it's not discipline first. It was a goal first.
Mm,
I grew up extremely poor. And by extremely poor, I mean extremely poor. Like we had a two-bedroom apartment and a house, kind of like how I have now. How my house is broken into two apartments. Same rules apply. The house was condemned while we lived in it.
mm,
My mother was raising us, and we couldn't afford to leave it, so we stayed in it because it was costing her probably like $50 a month for all I know. I mean, something, you know. I got my Christmas gifts from the food bank at times,
mm,
So I, and that's kind of why I went bad too, because I was as a kid, you don't know how to really,
mm,
you don't know how to communicate. Can't communicate what's really wrong, right? So you just act out, right? Um, so I did I did dumb things. I grew up poor, and the army my oldest daughter was born. She was probably my salvation, kind of like you.
mm.
Don't lose the weight or you won't see her graduate. Mine
Yeah.
was get it together, or you may be in jail or dead, kind of,
Mm,
And now there's my daughter born. I'm like, I can't do this. So I literally at 18, my daughter was born. I went to the army at 18. I graduated high school at 18. I got married at 18. All that at the age of 18.
wow.
And I made a change. And it's more about having a mission and a purpose and a goal first. Okay. Because and you have to, and I always made fun of people with visualization boards. It's like, that's so stupid. I'm not putting pictures from a magazine up there. But the reality is you have one in your brain.
Mm,
Every one of us has a concept and a perception of things that should happen. It's about the realization, right? And the realization comes from discipline. It really does. I mean, I've been working from home for a long time. It's not hard to fuck off from
mm,
home, right? If you really want to, but where's that going to get you?
right.
Nowhere. So I I discipline myself. I hold myself to a standard of what I want to be, what I want to be perceived as, what I want my kids to see me as. There's nothing more fulfilling than somebody else telling your children how awesome you are as a
Mm,
person, right? That's not your wife, not your sister, not your mother, not your brother, right? Some random person that I've known for years that my daughter didn't even know I knew that can tell her a story, a specific story about something great I did for them personally.
hmm,
Now, did I intend on that? No. Like I intended to just help somebody and I intend to do my job and to be who I am. And that's the thing is you have to identify who you really are and what you really want to be. I teach all my young people when I hire them about personal brand. What is your personal brand? You know, yeah. And we'll use Google because they're the best example. Anybody that worked for Google was cool because they worked for Google and Google was
mm,
cool. To hell with that. Google is an entity.
yeah.
Google is not a person. Yeah, it's cool you got a job at Google. You have really cool offices. You got slides and shit. That's amazing. But what is your brand? Like, who are you? Who are you what's your brand to the people around you? What's your brand to the people you work with and the people you work for? It's all different. But there's a lot of similarities because there's still a core you regardless. So how do you want to be perceived? You know? Um and that's it. And so in order to achieve my personal brand, there was things I have to do. I have to be willing to take chances that most people won't. I have to be willing to put myself out there. But I have to be willing if I'm gonna do that, I gotta back my shit up.
Mm,
And one thing I won't do is not back my shit up and look like a fool. If I sign on the dotted line, I don't care what it takes, I'm getting it done. I have an obligation to myself, to myself when I was 15 and 16 and 10 and 9. I have an obligation to myself at that age now to do things I set forth to do when I realize what I want, what I realize what my potential was. And it's not a specific job either. That's something else I think people they cling to is titles. I don't need a title. I don't need a job title to tell me who I am. A job title is just acknowledging that I've done it. I had to do it before I could be the title, right? And so, and it's not about education. I mean, there's an education that takes place regardless, but it's not about, hey, what college did you go to? What level of degree do you have? It's not about that either. Some of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life barely didn't even graduate high school.
Hmm.
Some of the most profound people I've ever met in my life that have taught me my best, most lifelong lessons were people that made it to ninth grade, and did everything wrong, like everything wrong until they hit 30. And they're like, okay, I'm changing around. My boss in the Army, he said a line to me, and this is actually part of my driving force too. I hated it then. I hated him for it then. And I love him for it now. And I love it now. He said to me, he rode me all the time because I challenge everything. I'm a perpetual challenger. I always ask why about everything. Well, why are we doing it that way? Why do we do this? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? I can't help myself because I have to know why. He said to me, you know what? You don't like how I do things? Tough shit. Work harder, get promoted over me, and you can tell me what to do.
Mm.
Sergeant First Class Malone. You can literally, we'll just quote him everywhere. And I was like, I hate this guy. But he's dead on. He was spot on with why I should shut up. He's in charge. He's in charge for a reason. He earned
Mm.
his spot. He knows more than I know. I'm a moron 19-year-old kid.
Mm.
He's a 35-year-old man that had been doing this for all those years. He's 15, 17 years into the game, and I'm trying to tell him what to do. Now, I'm not saying he did everything perfect because there's evolution that occurs. There's always gaps, there's always misses. But the reality is, I'm a moron at 18. I'm speaking about things I don't know enough about. 19 years old, what do I know about what he knows? I'm still learning. Evolution occurs for me. Wisdom occurs over time, experiences and whatnot. And again, if I had I and had I learned how to approach it differently, maybe I would have had more influence over him. Maybe I could have sold him on things that we should do differently to make our lives better.
Mm.
Until then, I have no choice but to shut up. But if I can do it better, faster, I can show people above me what we should be doing. And I feel it's our obligation. Our obligation is to improve everybody else's way of life.
Did the discipline that you were taught in the military really manifest itself in the rest of your life and your job and what everything you did?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Um, there's never, and maybe to a fault sometimes, right?
Mm.
Because sometimes I can't just sit there and do absolutely nothing. Like my kids, they don't understand me and how I still go like I go. But I feel like I want to fill my days all the time in production, and production's in different things. It's not just work production. So let's not say I'm a diehard ConnectWise employee where 24/7 is ConnectWise. No, it's progress in everything. Is being a better father, being a better friend, being a better partner, being a better whatever. Even my house is 120 years old. I bought it for a very, very cost-effective, cheap price, comparatively speaking, to the houses on my block, because it was a fixer-upper for different. I mean, it was. I was able to live in it right away, but I knew I had to do work, and it's work I don't even know how to do. So I watch
Mm.
YouTube all the time. By the way, I learned how to rewire my bathroom on YouTube.
Mm.
So yeah, and it's been 5 years. Nothing's happened. So I did a good job. Nobody died. We're good.
Good.
Right. Um, but that's the thing is, it's and again, it wasn't the discipline. It was realizing a goal.
Mm.
And I believe in marathons and sprints. When you put together goals, and I think this is the problem people have, is they're looking at the 20-year plan only. What happens within the 20 years? You lose focus. Why? Because you're not doing other stuff to make you. We need to have gratification. We have to have victories on a regular basis. I preach to my daughters. There's two major lessons I give them. about just perspective. One is consider the source. So when you hear things or things are being said or in a certain way, consider who it is that's saying it to you, right? Is it trustworthy? Is it not, for one? Is it a good person or is it not a good person? Because that'll help you to determine how you approach it or how you respond, right? Or if you should respond at all. Another one is really built around you should always have your own personal goals and achievements. Okay. And that's not like, yeah, Joe, great job on what you did, man. I'm proud of you, right? But it can't be your achievement, can't be my achievement. And even as a parent, your kids, you can be proud of them. When you graduate college, of course you had something to do with it. But that's not your achievement, that's their achievement. And if you're resting all of your pride and value on that, anybody knows, and it's a known fact, after kids go off to college, for the rest of their life, they're probably going to spend 1 year total with you. So, what did you just rest that all on? Some of you are going to see for a total of 1 year for the rest of your life? No, that's like saying you got a timeshare condo you went to one time and you think you built that. And that was your accomplishment, and now
Mm.
you've reached a level. Because what happens the rest of your life? You went there one time. You went on a, you took what you did one time. You went to a resort. It was great. And now what? You're done? No, you got to have personal goals, man. You got to go at it. I don't care what they are. I don't care if it's you make the best pasta sauce or if it's you're gonna run a marathon. So that's the sprints. These sprints in between what you do. You know, I always loved you said about how you lost weight and they said, how'd you do it? What's that silver bullet? It's kind of like that generational wealth concept.
Mm.
I don't care about generational wealth. I want generational happiness,
Mm.
right? But generational wealth, what did I teach my kids if I got rich and just gave them everything? Not a damn thing. I taught them that I could work hard to make money and they can sit back and chill. No, teach them how to do things with you. My 14-year-old daughter can do laundry, dishes, cook, clean, everything. And she's been doing it for the last 3 years. I teach her those things because they're basic skills that they should have. And and it gives her something to be proud of. You need to be proud of something you accomplish regularly. Every one of us does.
Mm.
Whatever it is. I don't care if it's setting an alarm and waking up on time. Whatever. Be proud of that too. But you should have them. You know? Overarching, I have a marathon goal. I think we all do, right? We
Mm.
all we all want to be able to retire. I'll probably never retire, let's be honest. But we all want to be able to do something. You have a vision of how you see your later years of life. But you should have really good early years too. Don't wait for that shit. You're liable to die before you can actually get to those. Especially men. We die younger.
Mm. I
So,
certainly don't.
right? I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. So wait, work your ass off to your 65, die at 67? That doesn't sound good. What a horrible return on investment.
What motivates you, Sean?
Not being poor,
Hmm.
not struggling, not being able to say yes because I have to worry about stuff. Um, and then I want to win everything. I'm not afraid to say that to everybody. I want to win everything. If you beat me at this today, if it means something to me, I'm going to go and I'm going to work on that shit and come back and I'm going to destroy you later.
Hmm.
I want to. And I want to and I want everybody around me to be happy. Except for the person that just beat me, whatever I lost to. Then I
Mm.
don't want to be so happy.
Give me an example of that.
Well, we'll use sales. Sales is a good example. When I was doing just sales, hardcore sales, if I would lose a deal that I was working on, I would go find out why.
Mm.
And not just from the perspective of the client, the prospect, and what I did, but I would look at everything: the messaging, the marketing, the sales, the presentation. First, I always start with myself, no matter what, because I feel just like in management and leadership, if somebody under you or around you fails, I think it's my fault first.
Hmm.
I have to go look at what I've done, good, bad, or indifferent, and I have to work on those things and make sure that I wasn't the reason for your failure, for one. So in sales, same rules apply, because especially when you're doing larger sales. Actually, not even just larger. Let me back that up. Any sale,
Mm.
because it requires multiple layers and levels of different things to occur for somebody to trust you and buy from you. So whatever it is, if the company had a bad Google review or 2,500 of them and only one good one, even though the company's great, why do we have that? Let's work on that. If they have, or if my presentation deck looked like shit, or if I didn't do a proper discovery, when I did sales, I have notebooks still in my basement from my discovery calls. And I can always look at them and know which ones I didn't close based off of my limited notes on discovery. And that was my fault.
Hmm.
That means I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't really paying attention. So then I learn and I come back and I close the next deal and the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. And if I have people on a team with me that are selling with me, I'm leading them. I don't care. I'm number one, whatever that takes, which gives me the ability to also have critical thinking and be creative by default to figure out how to get more business.
Hmm. Does Cobra Kai ever die?
Never. Cobra Kai never dies, Joe. Just so we're clear, they never freaking die. Do you know how ecstatic I was when that show came back on TV? Oh my God. And I always root for the bad guys because I think they're misunderstood. Because they're not bad guys. Bad is only subjective based on what side you're on.
Really?
I
So
mean,
in the Beauty and the Beast, you're rooting for Gaston.
I thought these maybe people didn't take the time to get to know him. He was having a bad day.
Sure.
He's proud. He was very proud of himself and things he had accomplished. And he had great hair.
He did have gray hair. Did
Right.
have
And
gray
he
hair.
was a good dresser. I mean, like he literally put effort into himself. Why should he not have confidence in that?
So Cobra Kai is from the Karate Kid,
Yes.
and tell me, and they were the evil
Yeah, they were. They were the evil dojo. But
dojo.
really,
Yeah,
that were trained by a special forces guy.
that's right.
Right. What's he supposed to do? You're not in the dojo to give hugs. You're sparring, you're fighting for points and fighting for your life. I mean, like, I don't know if you know, but I have a tattoo of Darth Vader.
I didn't know
See?
that.
Because
Yeah.
he's the real hero. He's the real he balanced the force. You're all welcome because
Mm.
of Darth Vader. He sacrificed himself to reestablish the balance in the force. He
He's
could
a
have had a great
martyr.
life. Yeah, he could have had a great life with a white picket fence and barbecues. But instead, he was like, you know what? Somebody has to be bad. I'm gonna go be bad. And then later I'm gonna kill the Emperor.
Mm.
He didn't even kill, he thought he did. So that was his onlyness. But again, right, Cobra Kai never dies. Ever. But you know what though? If you watch that movie, from Cobra Kai, listen to how he talks to them. It's all about discipline. It's all about not quitting. I'm down with that. I'm not down with the sweep in the leg. We know that was a cheating move.
Dirty play. Dirty
That was,
play.
yeah, he
Yeah.
cheated.
Yeah.
That I'm not down with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never. You should never cheat to try to win.
Right.
You just do better. Come back and just kick their ass later. Do it
Mm.
again. Learn the
How,
weaknesses and then go
yeah.
back and exploit.
An attack. Yeah.
Yeah,
Capitalize on them.
exactly.
How do you measure success, Sean Lardo?
By my own fulfillment and others around me. Again, I'm a very big culture person. Um, when I look around my house, for instance, if my daughters are happy,
Mm.
now they're not. Nobody's always happy. We know that there's we have our bad days regardless. But in general, if people are not stressing over the dumb things, they shouldn't have to. You know, I'd rather you be stressed because you want to do better than stress because you can't do enough or you can't get enough. All right. So success to me is defined by the ability to have you have it in your you have a feeling in your gut, right? And you have an excitement about it too. That's the thing. You never saw like if you ever anybody's ever done sales, a nice lesson I learned is when you get the best time to go close a deal is right after you just closed one
Mm.
because you have that that
Rush.
euphoria. You're
Mm.
ready, like it comes out in your voice, right? That confidence, that feel good, that and I think that's a big part of it. Um, but I believe that success is creating a culture and environment of happiness and success for everybody's a winner, and not a winner just in closing deals or a winner in building great products, but just winning at everything they're doing in life. Like they have contentment to a degree. Now you're never fully content because you always want more. I know I do. I always want to do more because I'm eager. I'm a perpetual student. I'm a perpetual everything. I can't help it. But I'm also a perpetual disruptor too.
Mm.
I disrupt the shit out of everything, but I feel you always have to break it to improve it. one step back to go 4 steps forward. That's the goal. You know.
Sean, I was so excited when you accepted this. I really, really enjoyed talking to you today. I always enjoy talking to you, and especially when I recognize you with your beard. How can anybody who wants to get in touch with you?
That's such a
Uh,
dig.
uh, Probably LinkedIn would be the best.
LinkedIn, Facebook. Hell,
Ah,
I'll give my cell phone number for all I care. It
no,
doesn't
no,
matter.
no. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Sean, Sean, Sean Lardo, Lardo. We'll make sure to put it in the show notes. Sean, thank you so much for your time today. We'll
Absolutely.
be seeing you soon, and you be well.
You know what, Joe? I'm always well, no matter what. But I appreciate talking to you. I'm glad you recognized me with the low blow again. That was really nice of you. Um,
Let's sweep the legs. Is that what you're saying?
you totally swept the leg. You said you totally swept the leg. No, and I totally appreciate what you're doing for everybody in the community. This is a good thing to have. I think it's great to be able to have us all share our stories and have a good place to do it and have a good conversation around it, because I think far too often we're so rigid in our approach to things that we try to just do what we consider to be, for a lack of a better term, the politically correct way to express things, right?
Mm,
And I'd rather have the raw conversation and give you my real advice about where I come from, because everything I said today doesn't mean that's what you're going to do. Maybe some people listen to this and they say that was amazing. I can totally follow that. And some people are like, what a freaking moron.
I can't relate. Yeah.
Again, either way, I'm fine with that. I expect
Mm.
it, and so I'm glad. I'm really happy, and I'm proud of you for being able to accomplish this, because you've accomplished a lot. So it's impressive.
Not more impressive than you, my friend. I know when people sometimes when they meet me, I say, well, you're going to hear good things about me. You're going to hear bad things about me. They're both true. Sean, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.